we're back. Welcome to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga, Pilates, bar, what else is on the sculpt, physical therapy, mental health therapy, wellness world, and what we've been coaching our clients through. I am Coach Bridget. I'm here with my fellow coaches, Carol, Shannon, and Terry. And we've got all sorts of good stuff to talk to you about today. I was thinking that we might start with an issue that Coach Carol brought up before we jumped on. And wondering, tell us, do you get all of the studio text messages, phone calls, and emails straight to your personal phone?
Well,
If you do, how are you surviving? How do you live?
well, this
What's your
is
life like?
the side note is I have a client who actually they do have a studio phone. It's
Mm,
just that all of the phone calls are forwarded directly to her cell phone.
yeah.
And it came up on a call and jokingly it was, well, we've talked about uh adjusting this obviously, like you should have it not come to your cell phone. And she kind of like got in a laughing way, like, I don't know how comfortable I'd be with that. That sounds really like disconnected for me, et cetera, et cetera. So it opened up sort of a bigger question of what is that? What's that about? Why can't you find the disconnect for at least a while? Like it really is, I think, what studio owners and business owners don't understand as being those are the things that burn you out. You know, the constant contact with people all the time. I know that we made some we didn't realize it was a bad decision, but to like give out our personal cell phone numbers to students, you know, early on. And, you know, getting a text on Christmas Eve from somebody about a class. Is it happening tomorrow? Like, how do you think that, like, anyway, creating boundaries and setting up communication rules, I think, is one of the very important pieces of being able to get yourself out of the business so where you can actually have vacations, time away, let your brain rest. And so it's just kind of again that bigger picture of like why can't you let go of this, you know, as a business owner. So thought I'd throw that out there today as a topic.
Terry.
Go. Then I'll go.
I was just going to say that, making this decision to separate, my personal life and my business life has been such a tremendous weight off of my shoulders. I still am very subject as the current studio owner checking things when I really don't need to. But I have so many systems in place now where it's like I know things are going to get taken care of eventually. Maybe not on my crazy, five planets in Virgo timeline, but on a normal timeline, it's going to be okay. But also, having that separation is just, it's everything. You have to do that and set it up however you can. I mean, there's so many platforms out there that you can utilize. There's Slack, there's Google, there's even Walla has a new like call centery thing. Um, you know, Add it to your front desk's SOP that they check all that stuff instead of you. You know what I mean? There's just so many layers that you can apply there that will give you that freedom. Terry?
Yeah, no, I think I mean, you can always just have a Google Voice account that is linked to your cell phone and you set up parameters when you check it. Because at the end of the day, in a class-based business, and in appointments, I mean, other than if you're in truly like mental health field, which we have clients who are, nobody's going to die. Right? If, obviously we want to provide exemplary customer care and customer service. And at the same time, keeping those boundaries in place is really important. And I actually did a post about this a while back in our community, the Artha community, about even from the get-go, if you're brand new studio or you're thinking of opening a studio, and I see this a lot, and I say this to me is just I missed straight up, I might get canceled on this. To me, it says amateur hour when someone opens a business and they have Terry Yoga, like hot yoga by Terry at gmail.com instead of Terry at hot yoga by Terry gmail.com. Right. So that's a simple thing to do. Yes, you have to pay for it. And it's one of those things that as your business scales, you're going to be glad you did. And if you are listening to this and you don't have it yet, or if you already have one and it's like info at and it's only you, separate it out. Start with your name at yourbusinessname.com and a hello at, because I like that better than info or whatever you're going to call it at. And then I would actually have a third one to set up members at. So that way anything with membership can go there. And even if you're checking all three of those email boxes at the same time, at least as you add team in, someone can take over members at, someone can take over hello at, or maybe you have ops at or something you can add. And if you don't want to give individual names, you can have titles. So operations at, this at, maintenance at. So then if someone leaves, everything stays the same. So that would be my suggestion is just start simple and maybe you just, have the two, your name and info or hello at. And then that way, when you get front desk, this is what I did. You can have I stopped checking the hello at, and and that way only the things coming to me were to me and not the other way around, Bridget.
Yeah, God, I have so many thoughts and even recent experiences with this that my brain is just going in a lot of directions, but I'll try and keep it concise. I think that when you are in it, so usually like your first couple years of business, it really like you don't really realize how crazy it is. Like you normalize so much getting those constant notifications, especially if not only are you checking the email, but you have those email alerts going on your phone so that all the time something is coming in. And when I look back now, I cannot believe how many years I did that, where it was just like constant pinging of I want to cancel my membership. Why did this happen? Like all this shit. And I just want to say, even if you're sitting there being like, oh, well, it's not that bad. And I really like to know what's going on, try not doing it for a week and just see how you feel because it's so easy. It's like the frog boiling in the water or whatever. But so I think that's really important. And also, you know, I think a lot of times business owners, I think all of us here can fall into this category of like maybe a little bit of perfectionism. And one thing you are giving up, like if your staff handles all your communication, which is what I do now, and it's the best thing in my life, but you are giving up the fact that they will not do it exactly the way you want it to be done. Like it just is true. It won't be as good. I recently had to turn our Google Voice notifications on, and I'll just say, like, everything's fine, but I did have to look at a lot of stuff that I didn't love seeing. And so at first I went crazy and started like posting about everything in Slack and just being like, when someone says this, don't say this. And like, just like really kind of, I should have, you know, taken a yoga class before I started responding to these things. And then finally, after a couple days, I like pulled my head out of my ass and I was like, Bridget, you need to calm down and you need to start using discernment on like what actually is a problem and what just like it's just like something that you're just micromanaging. You're just being too controlling about this. So I do want to say, like, if you're worried, yeah, they're not going to do it as well as you. That's true. They aren't going to do it as well as you. And you need to be doing other stuff in your business. That is like just this isn't for you. You are not a low-level customer service rep. I have lots more, but I'll leave it there.
I love that, Bridget. Couple of thoughts too. What she said is try this. Don't have your email, your work email, your studio on your phone. So the only place you check it is when you log into your laptop or computer. And then we talk about this a lot is time blocking, is set a time every day or every other day or whatever it is where you go in and you look at your email box. And that's when you respond to emails. Because the other thing is when it's constantly pinging, and if you're working on something else, we talk about having deep focus work, it's pulling you away and you're constantly getting bombarded and you're like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and before you know it, the thing you sat down to do isn't done. So you can start by just not having it on your phone. I wish I had done that. And the other thing to your point, Bridget, is a pro tip here is because we know we like our pro tips is I did this, and I know a lot of other studio owners do this, is have templated emails ready that if this happens, someone says that, you can do this a lot. You can have templated emails that in a doc, and it's just like, here's it responses to common questions. Because when you really think about it, a lot of the stuff that you're getting comments about, like the info at, is like the membership stuff and this stuff and that stuff and all that kind of thing. And if you have just templated emails ready to go, someone can just go in, oh, here's the email, and boop, I copy this, change a few things, and boom. And again, this is where chat is really helpful, right? So lean into those technology resources. And again, if you don't answer that email, and oh, here's another pro tip, never read your email before you go to bed. That's the other thing I learned is like, because if something does come in and then you're tossing and turning all night. Yeah. So stop checking email. Don't do it in the evening and you'll be happy you did. Shannon.
Yeah, every time we have a response to an email that comes in, we save that response and we put it in an Asana project. And that my front desk person has access to that project. And so you get this question, here's the answer. I mean, you may need to tweak it a little bit, but make it as easy as you can to access. And, obviously explain to your staff members like why you say the things that you say so that they understand. But, it's another one of those things that you can really systemize and like step away from and know that it's taken care of, at least 80%, at least 80% of how you would do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think your staff can probably handle like 99% of the emails that come in.
Yeah. Yeah, we just have a big Google Doc and it just has all the answers to every question. So they know how to use the find feature and they just look up cancellation or whatever. There's also like, the sidebar on Google Docs, which is really helpful. So they can just scroll through. The other thing, oh, and in regards to, I just wanted to go back to this for a minute because I think it's just so important is if you are in the early stages of your yoga studio or like if you haven't opened yet, which is the ideal scenario, make it a rule from the beginning that you do not give out your personal number to anyone ever. Um, I was actually good at this from the beginning because my first yoga teacher, she was the owner of her studio and I watched her go through this transition where she was transitioning from like it being like the studio was her phone number to like getting the studio's own phone number. And it's obviously a mess when you have to do that. But I was pretty good at this with the one exception of if people come on our retreat or do my yoga teacher training, they typically, up until this round, which I actually switched us to Slack for this, but they have my personal number. And I got a text message that just recently, it was like this week, I think it was when I was flying from Scotland to San Diego. And I got a text message from a disgruntled member. And I was so fucking mad about it. And it was just the exact reason because you think, it's just the people going on my training, it's just the people going on my retreat. Like, and 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I'm right. Those people aren't going to abuse having my phone number. And then it's that one crazy person that texted me this long email and she had already been including me on this like membership email thing. She was emailing my it was my work email, but still I don't do, even on my work email I don't deal with membership stuff. And she kept CCing me and I kept just ignoring it. I told the front desk, stop including me. I don't need to be involved in this. And then she texted my personal number. And this wasn't even at the point where it needed to be escalated. She hadn't even said back to the member or to my manager, like, hey, I'm really uncomfortable with this decision. And then she ended her text message with like, I'm so surprised by the unfriendliness I've been receiving in emails. This isn't honey-like at all. And I did end up emailing her because I just really wanted to like set that boundary and be like, you are never allowed to use my personal email for anything. But it just goes to show you like just that one, most of the time your members are going to be great and respectful, but like that is the risk of giving it out even one single time. So don't do it.
I was going to say we had this issue with, we have one member at our studio who is notoriously late for classes and has been spoken to multiple times and is pretty much on the verge of being fired from the studio if she violates this policy one more time. Every time we have a new teacher, she friends that person on Instagram and starts sending them messages like, hey, I'm running late. Hey, can you hold the door? And I'm like, I tell all my instructors, I'm like, if you want to get those messages, that's fine, but I highly recommend that you do not, create your own Instagram that's like your teacher Instagram. Like, don't even answer those inquiries. Don't even answer them. Just say, oh, I didn't see him. I don't check those messages. Because yeah, give an inch, take a mile.
Yeah, they'll find you one way or the other. I guess these are all really great practical tips and everything. I just sort of going back to like, why do people not want to separate? I think part of it is we become our business, I think, in the beginning, because it might just be you or one other person. But I think the mindset of creating a business and like Terry was saying, a separate email, a separate phone number, like all those things, like you really have to set yourself up. And for this to be successful long term, then you're going to have that separation. Um, I was going to say, we even have Shannon was on a call with me recently with a new client, and they're like, well, we only have 3 people. So we've been text messaging. And it's like, but your goal is to have more employees. Like, let's go ahead and set that up now. So you have a roadmap for when you onboard new people. It's sort of, you just have to really think in those terms. And I also just want to throw out there, like, remembering what is your definition of success here? Is it like I'm tied to this business and I get communication 24/7 and I can never actually get away from it? Like that is not sustainable long term. So if you want to think about like a successful owner, in my opinion, and I'm sure all of these ladies would agree, is like that you can separate yourself. You can take time off. You can be message free for at least 24 hours, if not more. And so these are all the reasons why we need to set it up the right way in the beginning.
Yeah, you just made me think, Carol. Years back, I was at Mind Body Bold, and Ariana Huffington, who owns the HuffPost, was one of the keynote speakers. And I remember her talking about this. The one thing I remember about is like she said when she goes away, obviously she's at the top of a major organization, blah blah blah, and has plenty of assistants, all that kind of stuff. She said when she goes out, when she goes away on vacation with her email, if someone emails her, there's an autoresponder that goes out. And I thought this was brilliant. Is that, but I'm away, I'll be back, da da da. If in the meantime, if emergency, here are the people, kind of like, and then she says, and this email will be and if this email will be automatically deleted, I don't know if this actually happened or not. I'd have to check that. But she said, I thought was brilliant. This email will be automatically deleted. So please reach out to me again when I'm back in the office on this day. So it wasn't like I'll respond when I get back. It's like, if you want to talk to me, re-email me when I get back.
I do that.
And I thought that was like, wow, that is super cool. Right. And I do know that I don't know if people are still doing this, but we had um, like have an out of office autoresponder that says, hey, I answer email from this time to this time, Monday through Friday. If this is happening before or after, please note, blah, blah, blah. And if this is about this, go here. If this is about this, go here. If this is about this, go here. Like if it's a membership, here's the form, this and that, this is that. So you could have like an automatic out of office autoresponder that to every email that comes in, this goes out, and then people can get answers to their questions. Shannon.
Yeah, we have that automatic responder on everything that comes into we have an info at, and every email that comes in gets that autoresponder, which helps cut down on a lot of, time wasting. But I was also going to say that, when you drawing this boundary with your instructors and your staff as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of talk out there right now with yoga teachers, saying, oh, we always have to check our messages and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you have one message to check from one person. Like we have 44 messages to check from 44 people. And so having that boundary is really, really, really important. We're going through our staff reviews. Sorry, segue. We're going through our staff reviews right now. And the first part of our staff review is for our instructors to fill out a self-evaluation. And it's really interesting because, there's a lot of people on my staff that are interested in taking on more responsibility, but they're also the same people who are like, I can't do this because of this. And this person is doing this and everybody thinks this. And it's like, okay, I see that you want to be in a leadership position at my studio. But are you that person, or are you still like in the the muck of it? And I think that's a really important I don't know, it's something that I'm dealing with in my studio right now. So I would love to hear how you guys have dealt with stuff like that. Bridget.
Why me?
Well, I just think we have a lot of similarities in our experience.
Um, okay. I was taking notes on something you said earlier. So are you saying about how, like, what to do when people are asking for like more?
Yeah, so they're asking for more of a leadership position, but they're not acting like leaders, i.e., they're engaging in gossip, or i.e., they're saying, well,
Yeah.
everybody thinks this about that. And I'm like, well, why are you the person that everybody is comfortable coming to? Why are you
Yeah.
the sympathetic ear for all of these things? And also send those people to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I have dealt with this. Um, and maybe this is not a helpful response, but I just told them the truth. I just was like, I like specifically the last time I dealt with this was maybe like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And this staff member was like, and I feel like you don't appreciate me. Um, you ask other people to like, do retreats and you've appointed other people to these higher, roles. And I said to this woman, I said, to be honest, I find working with you very difficult. And and when I get these text messages from you that are like this and this and this, I it makes me not want to work with you more because I don't want to deal with that more. And I think that there are varying levels to how straightforward, like, of course, I'm going to be as straightforward at all times. I think that's good leadership. And with someone, it depends on how much I think they can change. This person I knew could not change. And I was actually fine if she quit at that point. If someone I did think like, okay, this is someone I can work with, you know, whatever, I would say what I said. I would be straightforward and I would say, I would love for you to get to this point too. Here's exactly what I need to see from you. And I talk about this a lot when we're talking about like feedback for teachers, but for other members of staff too, talking explicitly about like, here's how to get better at this stuff. Like, if you have an issue with other people, like if your staff member is dealing with the fact that maybe like other people don't like her or whatever, here's explicitly what I'm seeing you do and what I'm seeing like happen between you and the other staff members. Here in this scenario, when this person says this, try saying this instead. Like just be so specific about how they can get better at something. And then when they do, great, you were an amazing leader. And if they don't, great, you were also an amazing leader because you helped them see, you helped yourself weed them out and you helped them, you know, see that this wasn't possible for them or
Yeah,
not a good.
and to step into the best version of themselves, if they really have the aspiration to step into a leadership position, they've got to become the container for that role.
Yeah.
And I think, it's not a difficult conversation when you're clear. So I really appreciate that feedback a lot, Bridget. Thank you.
The only other thing I would say too is I think, women leaders have this problem, uh, particularly that everyone who comes to them and says anything they want, you want to make that happen for them. Like women just tend to be more empathetic, I think, and people pleasers and maybe just, they just want and not even in a bad way, like they want to help the other people they see, especially other women, which is often who we're dealing with in these kinds of businesses. And I also want to say, like, you don't have to be everyone's savior. You don't have to, if someone comes to you and says something they want, it's okay. If you know in your heart that isn't what you want for them in your business, it's okay to be like, I love that you're interested in that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Right now, I'm not interested in like having us pursue that. I love where you're at right now in this role, or here's how I need you to be better in this role or whatever. But I think like just because someone wants it doesn't mean you have to help them get it. That isn't, yeah. And I just think that that's something that we forget a lot. I hear this from my clients all the time where they're like, well, Kim wants to do this. And I'm like, I don't really think that that's your problem. Kim wants that.
Sherry is biting her tongue over there.
Yeah.
No.
I was thinking of it in the cases like this, when someone would, okay, put a plan together. Oftentimes that will be, okay, love this idea, pitch it to me, put a plan together. How's this going to work? How's this going to, how, you want more? Okay, how are we going to pay for that? What this is going to be? So sometimes when you put it back on them, and this is kind of going back to, we talked about this before, particularly like teachers coming to you with requests to do a workshop or a this or a that, right? Having a plan inside the great, but I've worked with several clients where we put together a proposal, like a workshop proposal. It has to hit these, these type of things. So, sometimes you can say no, just by putting the work back on them. And if they come and blow your socks off and they've proved themselves that, oh, they're like, okay, well, maybe this could work. All right. So there is ways to get them on board that way. Yeah. And often, again, go with your gut. If someone in your business, you don't see them in that role, you're better off telling them that you don't see them in that role. It's doing a disservice to them and to yourself. Right. And it's like, I mean, we always like to say we're honest, but being honest in a way that sometimes can be hard, in that, just like you said, Bridget, I just don't see you in this role. This role isn't here for you at this studio. And be prepared. And I think this is the flip side to this, wanting to please everybody and wanting to do everything, is that the fear of, well, what if they leave? Right. I cannot tell you how many conversations over the years I've had with clients who stick with a teacher because they're fearful of something. And I'm not looking down in the Brady Bunch, which is down here. And Shannon is an example of this, but also lots of other examples, because they're afraid someone's going to leave. And that is the worst place to be, is Hopefully you never get, I think we all do at some point operate our business from a position of fear as human nature. However, you have to check yourself. If that's something you're in constantly, that is not a good place to be. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum before. If you don't want to go into your business because a certain person is working, that's usually a good indication that person shouldn't be there anymore. Just that's the reality. I mean, I have a situation with a client is actually kind of a little bit similar, but has to bring in a professional mediator to help resolve an employee conflict. And, it's not a fun place to be. And it's absolutely necessary. And she was like, should I do it? And I'm like, well, how do you feel about this conflict not being resolved? She says, I don't like it. And I said, well, and because the one staff member was like, I won't meet with this other staff member unless you bring in a professional mediator. Unless you bring in a mediator. I shouldn't say bring in a mediator. And and I'm like, well, and so that's what she's going to do. And it may be at the end of the day, the staff member ends up leaving, but at least, and I said to her, I said, that happens. That's okay. And I said, and what this shows your team is that you take this shit seriously because it goes down to the gossip mill. And it's like, this is not going to be tolerated. We're not going to accept this to the point that since this cannot be resolved, it's important that we resolve it to move our business forward so that we don't have to like everybody we work with, but we need to have a respectful and collaborative environment. And if someone's not willing to do that, then they better leave. And then I take this stuff seriously. So I also think it's a strong sign of a sign of a strong leader who's willing to do that to make sure the team can work together. If it had been me, that person would have been fired months ago, but oh well.
Well, that's actually what was coming to mind for me, Terry, is like, this is the exclamation point on something that should have been talked through, I think, earlier, it sounds like. And it kind of goes back to something we were talking about before we got on today was like, what is the what holds people back from having the hard conversation one-on-one versus I think a lot of business owners, they're like, something's happening with this one or two people in the business, and then they do a blanket statement to everyone. Like, hey, everybody, remember here, this is the policy on this thing. Don't do it that way, do it this way. And it's like they do that over and over and over again without actually having the one-on-one conversation with the people that need to hear it. We've talked about this before, I know, but it's just sort of like if you don't do it, this is where you end up needing a professional mediator, between staff members. Like it's I know it's challenging, but again, it's a business. If you're operating from a place of like, these are our core values, this is what we stand for, and you have that feeling right away, like that was off, like address it then so you don't have these problems down the road, sort of taking it a different
Yeah,
direction, but that's what was coming to
yeah.
mind.
No, and 100%. And for a little added context, there was with the one person who was refusing to meet, she was saying it was too psychologically triggering for her to sit down with that person yet. So that's why it was like we decided to go the mediation route because that way the owner's also protected as well, right? So sometimes, yeah, it's not a place you want to get to your point, Carol. And I think it could have been addressed sooner, but it festered.
And to Carol, your point about like, we've talked about this a lot, but like, we have to keep talking about it because all the time in the forums, I see someone being like, my teacher is repeatedly stealing from me, and what should I do? And then inevitably the comments are like, you should write a general email to your whole staff and just be like, hey guys, please, just a reminder, one of our policies is to not steal money from the business. So, and then people would be like, that'll do it.
Oh my
You're insane.
gosh.
That's insane.
I feel so called out, and yet
No, Janet.
although I've gotten so much better at this over the last like 5 years, because I was absolutely that business owner where I was
Yeah,
like,
I think everybody,
hey everybody, aka this person, and this
one person.
person.
Yeah.
Can you stop doing the stupid shit that I told you to stop doing like 15 times already?
I talk to my manager about this all the time because she still does it sometimes. She's young. She's amazing, but like, this is really hard for people. This is really, really, really hard to have direct conversations. And so, like, she really doesn't do it that much anymore. But for a long time, I would see messages from her in the Slack being like, "Hey guys, just a reminder." I was like, actually, who is doing it? Just tell them not to do it.
I love
I
the like over the top idea of like somebody stealing. Hey, just a reminder, just don't steal from us. Like, what?
One of my staff members keeps graffitiing the entire inside of my building. Should I send out a general message about, no, you're insane. Oh God.
People will people.
So crazy.
So
Okay.
crazy.
I was going to have a thought, but I just had another senior moment. I had a profound comment, but it's gone.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Not enough coffee this morning yet. Oh, anything else? I mean, I don't know. You guys are on before I was, so what else is going on?
The only other thing it's a totally different direction though. So maybe, I don't know, anyone have anything more related to what we're talking about here?
I think we've
No, I think what you were talking about before is related to this.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
That's
I could do
good.
it. I could do a segue. I could do a
do a
segue.
segue. I want to see the segue because I have no idea what they're going to talk about next. So I want to see the segue.
Okay. Speaking of staff members doing different things and whatever. Um I was talking about product and like class experience and I am working on this with a client right now, and earlier this year, she actually came back from the summit, and she's going again this year. Very exciting. But she came back from the summit and really started thinking about a lot of things in her business. And one of the first things that we did was get a little she had a staff who everybody was kind of teaching their own thing. It was a classic situation of like a new staff member would come on and would say, I want to teach this class, I want to call it this, and I'm going to teach it at this time. And so she had all these class names on the schedule. So the first thing we did was we just took the names back. We just like made everything related to her brand. And I think at that point, she sort of gave them ideas. Yes, Terry, slow yin and yin. This is so funny. This is not the same client, but yeah. Um, she gave everyone, an overview, like, okay, if you're teaching blank blank, then it needs to look like this. But at that point, she wasn't quite ready to do the work that she knew she probably eventually needed to do, was to get really serious about what's going on in classes. And I think a lot of studio owners are resistant to putting these guidelines in place for some of the reasons that we've been talking about, which is just general, like, I don't really like to tell people what to do. I don't like to make people mad, et cetera, et cetera. But also, I think sometimes we think it's this huge benefit to our studio if our teachers are left to be as creative and do their own thing and all this stuff that we hear a lot. And this this thing was something she had known for a long time she wanted to do, and then she was at the studio recently and a new student came up to her. He'd been to a couple classes and he was like, "Hey, you know, I'm trying to figure out what all these classes are and what I should do. When should I go to this class versus this class?" And God love her, she looked him in the eye and she was like, you know what? I don't really know. And she, and she came to our meeting and she was like, Bridget, I just told him. I just said, I don't have any idea. So thus launched our current project, which is getting her classes laid out and class experience and all that good stuff. So I'll open it up to you guys. What are your guys' experiences with this as studio owners and coaches?
This is something that Terry and I have been working on basically since the summit, probably 2 years ago, but I finally got the stones to put it into place.
Yeah, and finally realized she's done a vinyasa studio. It only took
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I think yeah, the initial resistance was having that conversation. And but what is so highlighted by that anecdote that you just shared with us is the fact that like it's not about the teachers. It's about the clients. And it's like if you're very clear on what your mission is and what your core values are and who your avatars are and who you're trying to help and how you're trying to help them, it's not even a conversation. It's like, this is what we do. And we've had a couple people, want to do their own take on, very classic modalities that we have at the studio. And we've had to be kind of brutal with them feedback wise of like, nope, you're still not doing it. Nope, you need a different song for this part of the class. Nope, you need to say this before that. You know what I mean? Like we've really had to drill down on it. And luckily, and the reason is we hear from the clients, we hear back from them. We, as the studio owners, maybe the teachers don't hear it, but like they need to understand that we get the feedback. So and so's class was, it was supposed to be this class, but instead she was doing like kickboxing moves and playing frickin' death metal. And I was like, whoa, no, that's not one of our modalities at the studio. So yeah, it's such a next level project. I'm really excited for her because I just love her. I know the client you're talking about. I love her.
Actually, I just did a workshop in the community, Artha workshop on class descriptions. And your class descriptions should be designed to do one thing and one thing only, is sell the class. It's a sales opportunity. It's what is it? Why would I want it? What am I going to get? And so that's just answering that in the first place. And to Bridget's point, I love, and I know who you're speaking of, is that it's brilliant. I don't know, because I've done this a lot with clients. I'll say, well, what's this class? And if someone can't tell me in less than 10 seconds what the class is, then that's a problem. As you as the owner, that's a problem. And I've only had this like one time because it was a vinyasa at a couple of different types of vinyasa classes. And I was asking her, she's like, well, in this class, she knew exactly. It was like, in this class, this is do, do, do. In this class, do, do, do. In this class, do, do, do. I'm like, brilliant. Let's just tighten up these descriptions a little bit. But the owner was able to tell me why these were different classes. And that's the big thing. It's like, if you yourself as the owner don't know, then that's a problem, because then you get this, what class should I take? And here we've talked about this before, is not only should you know it, your teachers should know it, and all your staff should know it. Your front desk should be able to answer the question, hey, Carol, what class should I take next? Or what's this class and what this class? Right? Even if they're not yoga teachers, they should be able to answer basic questions about what this class is. Then if someone asks a front desk person a specific question, like, well, I've got this knee injury. Oh, tell you what, I'm going to have you talk to the teacher, Bridget, about that. Right? You can still speak to the type of class without necessarily having to be a yoga teacher. And then the final thing, I saw Carol taking some notes, so I think she wants to jump in here, is what we're also describing when you're saying the teacher wants to teach this class at this time, this way. That is the essence of an independent contractor. That really is what an independent contractor is. It's like, I'm going to teach this class this time, this day, this way, and use this music. And if that's not what you want, then, and if you're listening to this, you're, thinking, well, but I want them to be independent contractors. The big question is the control. You have no control with independent contractors. And sometimes we find, I know this is a completely different tangent, But what you were describing, Bridge, is exactly that. That's the essence of an independent contractor, is the control issue. So that's a whole nother topic. And sometimes what we're dealing with are studios that maybe it's like trying to get into streamline stuff. This can be a tough place to be, Carol.
Yeah, all good points, Terry. What was coming up for me while you were talking was you know, writing a description and curating the class experience, they do need to match. That's the other part. Like, like make sure that those things match up. And the consistency is what brings people back. I think it's really fascinating. Like, now that I've been doing this and going to different studios all over, like, and then I go on vacations and things like that too. It's like, think to the classes that are compelling. That's the word we always tend to use. And then you know what you're getting every time. Like those are the places you want to go back to. Or, hey, if that wasn't for me and that's what I'm going to get every time, I know for sure that's not for me. And I'm not going to follow a teacher one place or the next because of whatever they do is what I like. You know what I mean? So this is where you actually can, when you create that consistency, I think I don't know, it's funny to me that we, as business owners, specifically in like the class world, how do we let these teachers decide this when we know like the things that are successful, the places, yeah, the yoga for everybody, like places like Barry's, all these Legree studios, they have a formula. And this is what they do, and they stand firm in it, and their teachers teach that way, So like, why can't we all do this? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just what's coming.
Carol, I mean, say what you will. I could agree completely. Say what you will about the OG 26 and 2 Bikram practice, but like nailed it. Was like an absolute phenomenon for, for decades. And it's because it delivers a predictable product and it's not teacher dependent and it's just the same every time. And that is, it's appealing to some people. It's not appealing to all people. But I know, Carol, you said you had an experience recently traveling where you went to a class and it like made a huge impact on you because there was like this build up to this peak and this theme that was tied in throughout. And it was like it made a big impact on you. So, kudos to that studio
Yeah,
for dialing that in.
they have a whole formula. It's a place where I go every year to the same place. And now I've been going to that studio for about 3 years. I took 6 classes over the week that I was on vacation. And my brain, there's definitely like things I would coach them towards one way or the other, but their classes are packed. They have a formula. I knew what I was getting. And the, the, that shit stuck with me, So like they've got something going on there that I would,
Even when you shared it with us, it stuck with
uh
us. We were
Yeah.
like, wow.
yeah. Oh, that's,
Cool.
yeah.
And Shannon, I'm gently pushing back on one thing you said about Bikram. It's not the same because you're not the same. I think that's one of the things about the series I love is that every day your body's different. Every day it's like, what can I do today? What can I build on from that? I get emotional about this because, people are like, well, how can it's like, because your body changes and your mind changes, your attitude changes, and time of month for women is a difference and all of those things. So yes, it's a static series. And I think maybe that's it. It's a static series, but it's incredibly dynamic in its staticness, city. Is there so you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm going off the deep end.
I always say that in that practice, you're the wild card.
Yeah. Oh,
The practice
yes.
stays the same, but the person is the wild card.
Yeah.
Whatever you're
Yeah.
experiencing in your life is contributing to
I love
your
that.
experience.
You're the what you are. You're the wild card, Bridget.
Well, that goes, Terry, to a point that I think this is sort of the pushback we often get from studio owners who are in this position where their classes actually aren't doing that great, but they come to us and say, well, I can't take away my teacher's creativity. Like that is what makes my studio so special is these great teachers that I have. And I love that I see this all the time in forums and groups and gatherings of studio owners. And I would say in yoga, this is the most rampant, I would say that it is in all of the modalities, but they say, well, that's what my clients love about my studio is that all my teachers do their own thing and they wear it as a badge of honor. Like I let my teachers do whatever they want to do. You are not taking away their creativity. And this is the conversation I had with one of my clients recently is I said to her, like, if you, client who's been teaching for 20 years, came to audition for Honey Yoga and I gave you the exact class I wanted you to teach from beginning to end, and then next I auditioned a brand new teacher from your YTT or whatever, who's going to teach a better class? And at first she was like, well, are they the exact same? And I was like, yeah, but that's not, of course, you're going to teach the better class. You've been teaching for 20 years. You're an amazing teacher, obviously, because your classes are the most packed at your studio. It doesn't matter if you're teaching them. The same sequence is actually what gets people to come back. Like, hello, core power. Ever heard of it? Like, it's the same, like, it's not the exact same sequence every time, but it is the same formula every single time. And that's why people go back consistently. But at the same time, when I was practicing at Core Power, of course there were teachers that I loved the most, that I would just specifically go back to their classes. But I also kept going back to the studio over and over again because I knew exactly what I was going to get. And the worst thing for retention, in my opinion, is if your clients don't go back because they don't know what they're going to get. And they're just like, well, I could go to class tonight, but I've never had this teacher before, or I had her last week and it was weird. It was totally different than what, Jen teaches. And that's just like people need to show up if they're going to keep a membership with you. And if they don't know what they're going to get, they're not going to show up because it's too expensive. Like, and I don't even mean just money wise. It's too expensive in their life. It's too expensive. Like, you can't afford to be driving your car 20 minutes there and back several times a week when you don't know what you're going to get.
And I was just thinking, kind of running through my head here, and this is like not, this is a little bit just in my little world here in my 5+ years of coaching hundreds of clients now. I can honestly tell you that looking back, I tell you my clients that struggle, my clients, former clients that struggled the most were the ones who hadn't done this work. I mean, it's like exactly this reason. It's like they struggled to find, because I did jokingly put in the chat yoga for everybody. And we talk about that. You cannot be yoga for everybody. When you're yoga for everybody, you're yoga for nobody. Because and again, we're not saying that yoga is accessible to everybody, but to Carol's point, it's like if she didn't like that type of class that studio taught, she wouldn't go back. Like she said, I know what I'm going to get. So it's not for me. And that's okay. It's okay. It's okay not to be something. It's okay to know who you are and who you're not. But if you're trying to be everything to all people, then you're nobody gets it. To your point, Bridget, it's like, eh. And I think that's sort of that disconnect, particularly in yoga. I don't know why it is with yoga, because other formulas like bar and other modalities, they're like all about that structure. And again, going back to Bikram did nail it in that way. And even like classical Mysore yoga, same thing. The Mysore practice is very, very predictable. And then that one, you don't even progress to the next level till the teacher says you're ready. Right. So we're creatures of habit for the most part. The majority of us are. And we like that predictability. We like to know what we're going to get. It's fun to mix it up every once in a while. However, it is nice to know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're about to celebrate our 5th year in our current location, which is now my 3rd location of running a yoga studio. And we know that we're not for everybody. We're not trying to be for everybody. Like there's so many options for different types of yoga and environments. And we're a little bit of like a yoga rebel. Like we have a dark room and we have fun lights and we're, kind of like we go from meditation all the way to HIIT. Like we've got a lot of variety, but we have our specific style and we know who we are and we know who we're not. And I think that focus has really helped us develop a clientele. And, if a teacher wants to do their own thing, pitch it as a workshop and tell me how it's going to add to our offerings and we'll do a pop-up. I mean, sure, absolutely. I want to offer a way for you to be creative, but not in our regular programming. Regular programming has to stay our regular programming. Um, and also to that, I was like, if teachers want to start some sort of co-op where they all do their own thing, I am wishing them very well on that endeavor.
There actually is one of those here in Dayton. There is a yoga
There
co-op.
you go.
And it is. It's like they basically, I'm assuming that they probably pay a fee to, and these guys really are independent contractors, right? They have their schedule, they show up, they do their thing. And it is so unappealing to me because
You mean, especially because a lot of teachers, like the stuff that's out there right now on social media about how much, is required of them. It's like, you think you're going to have less required of you if you're participating in a co-op? You're going to be, you're going to be on social media 24 hours a day promoting your class and making videos and, confirming with your clients. I mean, good luck. That's all. Bro, I think we got to wrap it.
Let's wrap it. That's a wrap on this week's Weekly Roundup. Tune in every Friday and make sure you subscribe to the show on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you are listening from. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye.